Hello and welcome to this episode of Neighbors Cooking. I am your chef and host, Mitch, the Recipe King, and we've got a great show. First of all, we have a milestone tonight. We are streaming live to YouTube, so hello YouTube! Thank you so much for getting our subscriber base up high enough so that we could actually start to stream live to YouTube. We're also streaming live to Facebook, on Neighbors Cooking, and of course my personal Facebook. So that just means we're growing. I saw some numbers last week. We actually are having about 100,000 people a week view the show. So that is just so humbling to me. I remember when I hit 1,000 followers, I was like, whoo! And now we've got 100,000 people watching the show every single week across the United States and Europe, Asia, Australia. I even have some people from Australia that are reaching out. So thank you all for joining our community. Thank you for being part of it. And thank you for having faith that I actually know how to cook. So today we're going to do a really cool recipe, super simple. Before we get started though, I'm going to bring a guest on, and I'm also going to explain. You're going to see somebody hovering around back and behind me. That is a photographer. And we're doing a photo shoot tonight to get some new social media pics for the new website, which is also coming. And I just saw the preview of that today, and oh my gosh, it is so fun and so cool. So I can't wait to share that with you all. We'll be launching it, I think, in about 2 weeks, if I can stop being so picky about every single thing that I see in it. So we'll see if that works. You know, the designers, every week I speak to them, they're like, oh, make your mind up. So, you know, it's kind of like when you're building a house and you go, yeah, I want a wall there. No, maybe I want to move that wall over there. So that's kind of what's happening with the website. But it is coming along. And the YouTube channel is great. We've got over 80 episodes up on YouTube. So 80 weeks worth of shows up on YouTube. So I'm super excited about that. Our guest today is a friend of mine that does probably as much in the community as I do. He's also part of my leadership class for Coachella Valley. So I want to welcome Nathan Truesdell to the show. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So cute on you. You're too skinny. It looks better on you than me.
Well, good thing we're eating tonight.
It's like a mini skirt.
Trying to compete with the pink.
Is that what you're doing? My new little pink outfit.
This is actually like my attempt at the ode to White Lotus. I keep getting that a lot.
I see. All right. We'll practice some of the scenes later.
Oh my God.
I told you.
Got it.
You can't scare me off that. I'm excited to show your audience how much of a terrible cook I am tonight. So
well, we're going to make you a better cook because you're just going to follow directions, right?
Okay.
You're good at following directions. So tell us a little bit about what you do in the community, what brought you to Palm Springs.
Okay. So I work primarily in digital media sales, but I also do PR, business consulting, and marketing for the entire Coachella Valley. I work for Gannett, but Mitch and I met through LCV, which most of you may know is Leadership Coachella Valley. We are the graduating class of 2025.
Best class ever!
By the way. But we have a lot of exciting things going on with LCV, with our class project for this year, with the CV Youth Compass program that we're going to be launching. Also, I do a lot of work with other organizations in the Valley. One of my favorites is Modern Men's Chorus, and shout out to you guys. Just for your 411, we have a very exciting and very exclusive announcement coming in June, so just be on the lookout for that.
So I can't be like, you know, the one you give it to, the announcement?
Well, if it's in June, then yeah. But maybe we can just circle back if I don't burn anything tonight.
Okay, we'll circle back and we'll do that, yeah.
Deal.
So our Leadership Coachella is we're doing a program with the Boys and Girls Clubs, and it's called our Youth Compass, and we're putting it on at the Rancho Mirage Library.
That's right.
And it's all the Boys and Girls Clubs in the Coachella Valley, so Coachella, La Quinta, Palm Springs, Cathedral City. And we're bringing in this group of 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and we're putting on this youth summit where we're having companies come in to talk about career choices. There might be some job opportunities that are being presented to some of the kids. And then we're going to have a panel with different organizations like nonprofit, government, technical schools, and then entrepreneurship. And we're going to have these panels and talk to the kids and let them have some questions and also find some mentors through all of us that are here in the Valley. And the goal of that is to keep the kids here in the Valley.
Exactly.
It's to build their careers and to continue building our next generation. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be fun.
I think it's a big need. Some of you may be aware, Coachella Valley is a thriving sort of upward trajectory up to the right type of environment, business, community, you name it, right? But often people who grow up here feel like they have a necessity to move away for, you know, secondary education, higher education, career development, advancement, whatever that looks like. So it has changed. Some of that's true, most of it's not. And so we're looking to help kind of change the narrative around that part of our culture here locally.
Keep the kids here.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we're going to cook. You're not a great cook, you said. All right. So I'm just going to have you come stand over here and we're going to start in just a minute. And I'm going to go over the ingredients. I'm going to turn this pan on for you so you can start to get it warm. Oops, wrong one.
My talents lie in other areas of the house besides the kitchen, but I can handle this.
All right. So let's get into what we're making. We're doing a sweet chili chicken stir fry with peppers and onions in it. So let's go over the ingredients. First of all, you're going to use some chicken. So I got this chicken today. When you're using chicken, make sure that you are rinsing the chicken before you use it, just to make sure that everything's clean. Keep it in a stainless steel bowl and bring it a little bit to room temperature. All right, so let's look at the ingredients. We've got 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of garlic. We've got a couple tablespoons of olive oil. You could use sesame oil also if you wanted to. 2 tablespoons of lime juice. We've got a papaya, freshly cut up. And we're going to cut up some onions, some peppers, some onions, and some green peppers, and some sesame seeds at the end. So you know how I am about spices and not keeping a bunch of spices in the kitchen. And so when I'm buying things like sesame seeds that I'm not going to use very often, if you look in the ethnic food section of your grocery store, you'll find these little packets of Mexican spices. I think this was $1.29 for the sesame seeds because I'm not going to use them after. I'm not going to keep a packet. They're all going to go bad because I don't use sesame seeds very often. So whatever I don't use today, I'm going to toss. But it only cost me $1. If you bought it like a shilling spice, it'd be like $7 and you would end up wasting it. So go to your ethnic Mexican food spice section. There's usually a big section of them all hanging with these little bags and every spice you could possibly want. If you don't have it in your cabinet just for your recipe you're making, will be $1.99, $1.50. So it's a good way to get the spices you need. So let's start with this. All right, so Nathan, I'm going to hand you this oil and you're going to put it in the pan and let it start to get hot.
Okay.
And while that's going, we're going to cut up these chicken breasts. So you don't want thick pieces of chicken because we want this all to cook pretty quickly. So we're going to cut this into cubes. And you have a thick side of your chicken as always. So the thinner sides, you can make bigger cubes. The thicker sides, we're going to cut a little bit thinner so they cook at the right pace. This recipe is enough for 4 people. We're using a pound of chicken. Or you can use a little more depending on how much protein you're trying to get.
This is why you're a good cook and I'm not, because I like to bake, and the fact that they're not all perfectly the same size makes me crazy. But I think that's also part of it, right?
Well, and baking is a very specific talent. It's a very specific way of cooking. You can't just throw in whatever you want, like a little extra of this. It's got to be very specific. And so kudos to the Palm Springs baker who is that type of a cook. I'm not a pastry or a baking chef. I don't like to bake. I'm not a big sweets eater unless somebody else makes it. And I'm afraid of the failure.
Well, you know, my great-grandmother tried to always substitute even baking, and it was hilarious because it never worked out.
Well, you know, my grandmother, I'm from England originally, and my grandmother made this amazing rice pudding, and every time I would go to visit her in England, she would make it for me, and I'd watch her, and she was always, it was a little spoon, you know, a little hand of this, a little hand of that. And I would come home, and it would never come out. So then the next time I went, I bought all the same spices so I could bring them back home. And I discovered that actually it was the crock pot, the crockery she was cooking it in was where all the flavor was. Oh. So when she passed away, I got that. That was the one thing I wanted from my grandmother. Well, that and her money.
The secret recipe, money.
So we're going to start with that. You're going to start getting those cooking. Careful putting it in. Always go be away from you. Go lower and slowly in. There you go. So you don't want the splatter.
We don't want the splashback ever. And you want all of it in?
A little bit more. There we go. We'll save this for another. Don't use the same cooking board that you use on your chicken for your vegetables. So we're going to start off getting that going, and we'll put a little bit of salt and pepper. Lots of salt. Keep going. Go, 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 go. Go until I say stop. There you go.
It seems like a lot.
And then you want to try and get this to layer out onto one layer. There we go. A little bit of spatter. So that's okay.
Are you a clean as you go cook?
Unless I have something else to clean up for me afterwards, then I just...
Houseboy.
Like my ex-boyfriend, I used to go, I'll cook, you clean it, and the kitchen would be a disaster, and he'd be like, this was not working. So I try not to be a super messy cook, but all right, so just let that set for a minute.
Okay.
And while that's doing that, we're going to get to our onion. It's going to go in. As you all know, I love my mandolin. So you want to have about 1/4 inch slices. Cut the ends off this. Don't use the same knife for your vegetables that you just cut your poultry up with. I know lots of you do that, but please don't. It's just about cross-contamination. Like you don't want to keep cooked meat, cooked chicken and raw chicken on the same shelf in your fridge.
They can't
They will
cook.
cross-contaminate, yes. So, all right. Joe's fingering me this way.
Move it over.
Move it over, he said. All right. So while that's, put this garlic in for me.
Okay.
And we're going to cut this onion into nice little...
So did your family cook a lot when you were growing up?
No, my mother was a terrible cook.
Really? It's not what I thought you were going to say.
That's why I learned to cook. I used to go home from school to watch the Galloping Gourmet, Graham Kerr on television. And I would watch what he was making, and then I would go to the grocery store with my mom, and she'd buy everything that was on the recipe, and then I'd make it. And so, because my mother was very much about, on Mondays was meatloaf, on Tuesdays was sweet and sour chicken, on Wednesdays was liver, Thursday was spaghetti, Friday we thankfully went out to dinner. And so it was just always the same thing, week after week after week, and it became monotonous.
I see.
So like, there is more to food than what you're cooking every
Yeah.
5 days.
It's not just a function, right?
Just a function. And her idea of cooking, like spaghetti was ground beef, a spaghetti packet, and a can of sauce, of tomato sauce, put together, and that was the extent of spaghetti.
That's very different style cooking, right?
Well, my mother grew up in a family that they had to cook. She didn't learn to cook. So when she had to cook, she didn't really know how to cook.
Oh.
And so, she wasn't your typical housewife. All right, so we're going to put in the papaya next.
Okay.
Because we want that to start to get a little bit softer than it is. So if you haven't gotten a mango or papaya, mangoes or papayas are very hard to cut. You've got to slice it and go along the edge of the seed, and you end up wasting more than not. So I bought this already pre-cut for me. So we're going to let him continue to stir that in and get it going. We've got our onions ready to go. And next will be our pepper. What's your favorite food, Nathan?
Oh, I have so many. I love seafood and fish.
Okay.
Probably way more than red meat, but I come from a big family, and I grew up in the South, and in a very Southern church. My dad's a minister. So there, like, not only is cooking just ingrained in the culture, it's also sort of a contest of who's the best cook, and everyone has their own little recipe or dish that they're famous for.
Yep.
To the point that people actually sort of like want the official recipe when they die. It's like that's what they pass on.
Yep.
But the sort of tongue-in-cheek part of that is that a lot of people will deliberately not write down a couple of ingredients.
Yep.
Because they don't want somebody else to be able to mimic it.
Yep.
Which I love that.
I have a friend, hey Norris, in Atlanta, and he's from the South. Well, I grew up, I lived in Atlanta a number of years, and he did fried chicken, and he would never let me see how he did his fried chicken.
You know, it's a secret, I get that.
So, and the very first time I went to a restaurant in Atlanta, we went to some place called, it was kind of like Flo's Diner. You know, the waitresses were in those old Southern outfits, you know, with the little hat, bonnets on. And I had never had chicken fried steak. And I said, well, I have chicken fried steak, medium rare. And the waitress was like, darling, it comes one way, fried and battered. Battered and fried. I'm like, okay. But the interesting thing I found in the South was they always bring you plates with like your beans in one bowl and your potatoes in another bowl. It was all these separate bowls.
Yes.
I'm like, what is the point of that? They don't like their food to touch, I guess. I don't know.
It's true. I still don't actually. But
do you not?
You learn. You learn
I found that very different and unique. All right. So we've got our chicken. We've got our mango going. So the next thing we're going to add in there is our lime juice.
Okay.
Stir that up. And then we're going to put in our onions. And really you only need about a half of an onion. If you really like onions, you can put in the whole thing. But we're just going to put in a half of a red onion. There you go. Stir that up in there. And then for our color, we're going to add our red peppers.
The colors in this are beautiful.
And the nice thing is you can have this prepared for your family in like 30 minutes. Without any trouble. Now, we're using a sweet chili pepper in this recipe. You can make your own sweet chili recipe, sauce, but it takes forever to make.
Oh, really?
I just buy a jar because it's just simple and it's not about being super complicated. If you're going to make your own sweet chili sauce, it would take 4 or 5 hours to make what costs you $1.99 in the store. It probably costs you $20 to make it. So we're not going to do that. We're just going to pour this in. And if you can get there's a little spatula in there, or that spoon will work.
Let's do this.
And you're just going to stir that all together.
Full transparency, I definitely had 2 mangoes down, and Benji is loving it. Benny is loving it.
Benny, out of the kitchen. Thank you. Go on.
And do we want to stir this in?
Yep.
Okay.
And the soy sauce. There we go. So so you like shellfish and all that kind of stuff, right?
And I love French food. I secretly love everything Southern food, and just like Americano, soul food, comfort food, you name it.
So you were in Savannah, did you say?
I lived in Savannah for a few years before moving here, but I left Chicago during the pandemic. I grew up in Mississippi, so I've seen quite a bit of the South.
Mississippi has some scary places in it. No offense, Mississippi, but...
Your 2 viewers that might possibly be there, you already know this is true. Everyone leaves.
When I moved to Atlanta, I drove from here to Atlanta, and Mississippi was one of the places I had to go through. And I arrived there in some little podunk town, I don't even remember the name of it, that had the sheriff car was from Mayberry RFD with a little blue light on the top.
It sounds very accurate.
Right? Banjos were playing, I don't know. But it was like, wow, this is culture shock. But it's
It's a time capsule.
It is for sure, a time capsule. All right, so we've got our green onions cut up that we're going to use for garnish on the top.
Okay.
And we're going to have that. I already made some jasmine rice, sorta. Note to self, don't leave your rice on the stove while you're getting your photo session done. But it's fine. So do some jasmine rice. A lot of people, when they're cooking white rice or any type of white rice, the comments I see online or questions are, why does it always clumpy? Why isn't it? And it's because you didn't rinse your rice. So rinse your rice really thoroughly before you cook it. And remember, rice is 2 to 1. So it's 2 cups of fluid to 1 cup of rice, and you end up with 2 cups of rice. So rice will double in its size. So depending how much you need, if you're feeding 8 people, you'd probably do 3 cups of rice and 6 cups of water, or 6 cups of chicken stock or vegetable stock, whatever it is you'd like to put into it. All right, so next thing's next. I know I've got a spoon over here somewhere. I'll grab another one. I'm just going to taste this sauce. Let's turn this down a little. Ooh, that's good. All right, stir that all together.
Okay.
And then, that is spicy too.
It smells good. I'm surprised with how much it actually, the quantity of like how much it actually, produced. This is a lot of food.
All right. So, let me get some rice out of here. And I'm going to take that pan away from you. Look how good that looks. So delicious. Where's my big spoon? There we go here. So this is enough for at least 4 people. Some of onions right there. All right, whoops. As I make my mess. All right, put some green onions on the top.
Beautiful.
Some sesame seeds. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
That was pretty fast.
And there we have it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
20 minutes. Let me get you a fork and you're gonna try it. It's hot, like I tell every guest who takes a hot mouthful of food and then doesn't realize it's not hot. Hot.
Thank you for that. Let's try not to burn myself. Perfect.
Good, huh? Healthy.
Sweet and spicy and not too hot.
And it's under 600 calories.
Really?
That's a dish. Yep.
That's amazing. It's delicious.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, there you have it. Our sweet and sour stir-fried chicken done. And how long were we on, Joe?
Less than about 28 minutes.
28 minutes. I hardly got to talk to you tonight.
I know.
How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. I feel neglected.
He's jealous. So, thank you, Nathan, for coming on the show. Thank you for everything you do. I look forward to the Modern Man announcement. I think it's Naked Modern Man. I don't know.
It depends on what day of the week it is.
Okay.
I didn't say that. Cut
Rehearsals are crazy.
I'll take it. No, thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for all you do in the community. I'm enjoying working with you on our leadership program, and we'll see what happens next. By the way, I didn't get best vote of the Valley.
I knew this was going to come up. Mitch, you will always be my number one.
All
you
right,
are the best.
Thank you. All right, until next week, we'll see you here on Neighbors Cooking. Thanks, and have a great week.
Thank you. Bye.